that, that means our logos are probably backwards too. But you know what? Lesson number one with anybody that's in sales, you better be able to read upside down and backwards anyway. And if you don't know what that's about, you've not flipped that paperwork over and slid it over enough times. Am I right, Joe?
You're right, Tom.
Are you excited today, Joe?
I'm more than excited. I'm ready to answer that question, brother.
All right, well, it's time. So we're going to get going. Right now, we're getting going. It's live. You're on here. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So, by the way, hit us up with your questions. We'll go for probably 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Just depends on how we're doing here. And FYI, I'm going to shameless plug in here. If you've not been to our sales program, our tech program, our CSR program, our managers program, our owners program, what are you waiting on? You know you want to make more money, and we're going to prove that we can do it in this session. So I'm going to ask Fabian's question. Thank you, Fabian. This is a great one. How do I show value with a customer that keeps asking me about the price even before I can get started? Joe, real deal. I want to say Holyfield every time I say that. Person, what's up, man? What do we do with that? It's a great
question because a lot of people think that the sale process starts when you show up at the customer's house, when in fact it doesn't. It starts when that phone rings and they call your office before you get dispatched out to that call. So the process of the sale is actually going to start way prior. And if you got somebody that's all price hopped and fixed up on price, what you have to do is build as much value in your brand and as much value as your company as you possibly can as soon as that phone rings.
All right, and I'm going to unpack it a little bit further, too. By the way, Fabian said he's excited, and he's a top IQ salesperson in Florida. So, Fabian, I'm going to give you a flip side of this, too, right? And it's and Joe's absolutely right. I've been in your shoes. Joe's been in your shoes. So one of the things I want to tell you, I'm speaking with a guy named Brad Schneider. Big-time superstar. This guy sells multi-million dollars a year. And as always, he's got a process that he follows through. But as we were in a conversation yesterday, he's talking about just being able to read the client, being able to recognize the client. At some point, you got to be able to do the same as well. And I'm going to give you a for instance, right? In our system, we say settling fears. There's a portion of the fears that we have to settle. And yes, if you were to give a price to some clients too early, they're gone. You're never going to get a chance to build value. But there's some clients that if you don't have an appropriate conversation about what the estimations might possibly be, and this is not the same as a firm quote, but if you can't give them a range of expectations because they've literally never done this before, then they're not even going to be comfortable enough to let you give a presentation. So in all sincerity, there's often times when people call, and I'll ask a few qualifying questions. So typically we follow a process that we refer to press play. We establish a relationship. We ask questions that dig into their needs. Then we try to settle fears. But inside of those questions that's digging into their needs, the bigger the need, the greater the investment. Do they realize that? Do they get that? So I might bring it out, right, and I might unpack that question a little bit, Fabian. Mrs. Smith, you seem to be concerned about total. Now, I can guarantee you that I'm going to be able to share with you some estimates on this. Now, I like to typically sit down, do everything with pen and pad, because the last thing that I want to do is give you a quote that is nowhere near what you're thinking. So let me ask you a question first, Mrs. Smith. Will you give me permission to do my whole process and actually get it down to the penny so you know what the total will be? I know you still want an investment total, and I'll talk to you, but can I do that? Okay, great. Well, then here's the other thing that you got to consider, Mrs. Smith. Investment totals can range greatly. I mean greatly. And there's a couple reasons why they can range greatly. But one is, what size does your home need? I don't know. But the bigger a system, the more it's going to be. The smaller, the less it's going to be typically. The other one's, how efficient is the system that you want? I'm going to need you to unpack that for me. There are many, many variables. Even like, what do I find when I get into the attic? Now, Mrs. Smith, I can tell you in homes similar to this, for clients who want the absolute very, very, very best, and they've got lots and lots of needs, I've put them in for as much as $30,000. Now, Mrs. Smith, I can also tell you in similar homes like this where they've needed the bare minimum and they were fine with that. Maybe they were going to be selling their home. Maybe the duct and everything else was in great shape. I've put them in for as little as $8,000. So you're going to be somewhere in between there. And if you give me time, I can give you the exact penny. Would you be willing to do that? All right, man, we've gotten a lot of comments. Let me see if I can get in here and read those. By the way, Fabian, it's a combination of relationship, finding common ground, And by the way, you can't even go into what I just shared with you until you got a little bit of a warm client and common ground. Because if you don't have any, warm emotional feelings there and you do that, they will get you right out the door. And that was kind of what I was referencing with Brad. Brad knows how to find common ground. He knows how to make connections. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I got another question here from Gerald Lopez. All right. How do I overcome the buyer's? Pardon me. How do I overcome the buyer's remorse customers? So, Gerald, let me see if I got the story here right. You sell a product to somebody, and I want you to see if we got this right. You sell your services to someone. By the way, if you're an HVAC, let me know that. But you sell your services to someone. Afterwards, they get buyer's remorse, and the client's calling up and they're saying something. I'm not happy. Or maybe they're saying, I went around, I did some price shopping, and boy, I can find it cheaper. All right, Joe and I are going to tag team this one together. Joe, give me the essence of buyer's remorse.
So with buyer's remorse, obviously it happens. It's a common thing, and what I truly find is if you do a good enough job up front asking questions and actually providing the needs and the solution for the individual problem, instead of providing the solution for the problem that you think it might be. When you provide the solution for the needs of the client, there's a lot less of that type of scenario. There's a lot less buyer's remorse. To me, it feels like at times, if there's buyer's remorse, it's because there were some stones left unturned. There were some questions that were left unanswered. There was some investigating that didn't get done. So I would say we probably, if you have that happening and you have calls that are canceling, or customers that are calling back the next day with buyer's remorse, try to do a little bit of a better job digging in and figuring out what their real needs are.
And by the way, Gerald just gave me a little bit more of some input on the position he's in. He's with Abacus Plumbing. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, Abacus. Great clients. We really dig you guys. Been working with your electrical side, worked with your plumbing side in the past. And this is what he says. He says he's a customer relationship representative, which I really like that way, a CRR. Some of you guys might call them customer service representatives, but he's the person that's helping folks on the inside. John, I see you, brother. I'm going to get you there too. So from his standpoint, if I'm understanding what you're saying, you are potentially fielding phone calls where clients are having buyer's remorse and they're calling to complain to you. I think that's what you're saying. Is that right, Gerald? Is you're answering that phone call. Now, what I don't know at your company is if you are passing that on to a manager. So help me understand that, Gerald. That manager really is the person that seeks resolution, or if you are actually empowered to seek the resolution. So you're passing it on to a manager. All right, so very good. So you know what? In your position, this is what I would say is that your manager is going to dig in, Gerald, and your manager is going to find out where the lack of perceived value came from. And they typically are going to find that it usually is because, not always, but usually it's because the technician skipped some sort of step. They didn't go over the guarantees and warranties. They didn't build value. They didn't do something. It's both of us, a manager and myself. I'm going to handle it both ways then, Gerald. So if you're going to be, giving that to a manager, one of the things I would say is to be empathetic with a customer, express that you understand their concern, and let them know that their feeling is valid, because it is valid, but don't necessarily right out of the gate take ownership of something that they perceive as something that's been done incorrectly, because we don't know that. Buyer's remorse is all emotional. Your technician may have done everything technically correct, and he may have skipped some customer service steps. So if you're passing it on, what you want to do is you don't want to serve that client to the manager hot, is the essence of it. Don't aid to their frustration. And that, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's like if you only get to speak to the manager because you're good and pissed off, that's not good for anybody. So what you want to do is you want to serve that client in a position to where they're mentally open, and the best way that they are going to be served that way is if they feel like, okay, someone's going to listen to me. I'm going to be heard. I'm going to have my complaints heard. And by the way, I've been with you guys long enough to the point, I don't know why I've got this board here, that I've seen Alan actually handle those calls, Gerald. So when they go over to Alan, and I've seen the man firsthand handle it, his first and foremost expression is of gratitude. Thank you for being a client. I can't do a great Alan impression, but thank you, Mrs. Smith, for being a client. Really appreciate it. Would you tell me what's been going on? Why did you see a lack of value? Tell me what happened with our customer, with our client service, because we really want to serve you well. And I mean, I don't know if that's a good Alan impression or not, but probably not too bad. Alan's got that heart of service, right? So now if you're going to be the guy that's going to be handling those concerns, or the gal, and you are empowered to fix the problem, listen. Because this is what I'd share with you guys, right? Don't try to hang on to a couple $100 if the client really has true remorse and you can't solve it over the phone. If you can go back out there, see them, if you can make them happy. But don't try to hang on to a few $100, because the damage that they can do in this world of social media today, man, far more costly than a few $100. All right, let me go back up to the list.
Sometimes, really quick, I'm just going to add this in. It's a simple fix with technicians and going in the home. Sometimes all you got to do is leave a little reminder of what the job outline is and what you're doing for that cost. Make them put it on their refrigerator or something. That way, after you leave, they can go back to that and make that decision again. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what he was doing. That's what she was doing. Oh, yeah, that's right. So sometimes it's just putting that little reminder, up on the refrigerator as well. That can help.
And I think we had a few people put something on that. Bill Griffin's going to give you some credit there. It's all about the warm down. The warm down is the reinforcement of why they bought. The higher the average ticket, the more you should do that. And press play, we call it adding value, and that's right before your future. So those are the last two steps in adding value in your future. You should always remind the client what they received. Take a few moments, warm them down if you like that approach. Remind them. The bigger the ticket, sometimes it's even smart to actually take the reasons why they've told you that they've purchased and literally put those on public displays. And some companies even have forms for that.
I love that.
I do too. And it works really well. Very good. Okay. More questions, bring them on. And in a few moments, I'm going to address some of the topics that we've also promised. Not one. I'm reading some of the comments back and forth between some of the guys here. It's awesome. Bill Griffin, final confirmation and commitments. I totally agree with you. Money back guarantee. I love it. By the way, Geraldo, let me know empathy and assurance, and also try to de-escalate the calls. That's correct. Thank you, man. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you. John Dolendorf says, sorry I'm late. John, man, anytime you show up to the party, you're welcome, brother. We love having you at the party. Yeah, what is happening? All right, so very cool. So let's move into the time of year that we're moving into. Everybody has different times of year. I'm not going to put words on here because they will be backwards, but I will draw pictures because that will work, right? So for some folks, their busy season just happened. For the sake of Texas, right? Man, we're hot and heavy all the way pretty much through September, and then when you get to October, boom, it drops because it becomes gorgeous. And it will stay gorgeous for a long time. Maybe for a little bit of time, we'll have a little tiny cold snap, really tiny baby one, and then like crazy, wham, we get slammed again. So that kind of looks like a W. But there is a big gap right here. For some of you, it's not like that, right? You've got fairly consistent seasons, so you end up getting two gaps. But what I can tell you, and this is especially tougher when you're smaller, it gets a little easier as you get bigger, but there's always a challenge, is keeping guys, especially ones that are performance-based pay, motivated. Hey, by the way, if you've had trouble keeping guys motivated, then do me a favor, just go to your little, icon wherever on here and click a symbol for me. So if you're here, if you can find the smiley face, I don't know if it works like that in Facebook Live. I guess I should know that. Yeah, I think it can. If you can go hit the like button.
Press and hold it.
And then do the ha-ha face. I don't know. Maybe I should. No. Do the sad face. It's probably whatever face you put something on there. I just dropped the sad face. I dropped the sad face on my own recording. I don't know if that's cool. But if you've had trouble keeping your guys motivated, let me know. Because, man, I can tell you, I have. In our first year of business here, hot and heavy, and then boom, the faucet of weather enhancement turned off. And by the way, We are a weather-enhanced business, right? We're not a weather-dominated business. As we get bigger and bigger and we diversify, weather has less of an effect, but it still has an effect for a very, very long time. So we got to keep these guys motivated. Bill, I see this. He did the. Thank you, Bill. Bill in service excellence training. I'm sad, and Bill's laughing and crying. John's laughing and crying. You guys got it. So you have these issues. Now I'm going to share with you some of the things I do. But first, Joe, what are some things that you guys do to keep your sales pros and even your techs motivated?
Bigger than anything, I'd like to say that motivation comes from positive energy. Positive energy enforces a positive outcome. Yep. Negative energy promotes a negative outcome. It's just the way it goes. So this time of year, as you were saying, across the country, no matter where you're at, you're going to have a season. And sometimes those seasons are going to be at different times of the year. For us, this season, we start to slow down. When we start to slow down, though, some would think that outside of the trades or outside of our industries and what we do, that you might want to start to slack off or kind of slow down with the times. And in fact, that's not what we do. In this industry and the way that we work in the service industry or in the trades, we have to start preparing for next year when it gets really busy. Mm-hmm. So I find myself this time of year actually working harder than I have to work in the summertime. Believe that or not, it's true.
So so positive energy? Yeah, no question. By the way, I know you can't read the comments. 100%, just like the customers react, you react. Your team reacts how you react. Yes, Nicholas, you're right. Your team will react how you react. You can start getting freaked out. They're going to start getting freaked out, right? So I'm going to share with you. What's that, brother?
I said you just got to lead by example, especially in a leadership position. If you're looking for things that like we do, this time of year, we start to spend a little bit more time with the techs, a little bit more time with the comfort advisors. Mm-hmm. Today, Terry and I just went to lunch with all 4 of our comfort advisors.
Hey,
little things like that you can do because you kind of seize the moment in time. We have a little extra time right now. I'm in management. Doesn't mean all they are. So just because I have to work a lot harder doesn't mean this time of year that they have to work a lot harder. We ask them to do some things this time of year when it slows down, like ride-alongs and, just doing some things that kind of show that little extra, calling on some of the reports that we pull and, trying to dig up some old business, that type of stuff. But, really, man, it's just about staying positive and keeping a positive attitude, positive mindset.
Yeah. And a lot of it is maturity, too. If you've got a guy that's, oh, by the way, so this is a leadership lesson. If you've got a guy that's been with you for, 4 years or a couple years, he gets it. And he probably doesn't get overly freaked out about it because maybe he's even been waiting for the few weeks to slow down. It's sometimes the young bucks, or maybe not even just the young bucks, but the ones that have never really understood how to manage their money. So, and you know what, and I'll tell you this, super positive energy absolutely goes a long way. But also reminding them of what is to come, because there's this thing called hope. And what will happen a lot of times when guys will get, demotivated is if they've adjusted their lifestyle on summer money, or for those of you going into super cold winters, winter money, and they're spending like they're always going to make that money and they haven't got a little of experience, they might hit a period of time where it's like, I'm not living the lifestyle that I've become accustomed to living. Just sometimes, and this is something that we did literally, just reminding them that it's right back around the corner. And not just as you remind them, but give them opportunities and show them what you're doing. Because I love what you said there, Joe, where you bring up the old opportunities. So I'm just going to draw like a set of files, right? We bring up the old files and look at all these old leads that possibly haven't done anything yet. So there's one approach to it. Here's all the old opportunities. And the other side of it is to show them, and I'm just putting here in a search bar, let them see the work that you're still doing now so that they realize that you as a company are still investing, because people will sometimes think, that when the leads dry up, that means that you're not doing anything. You're not working. And if they think that you're not working, why should I work? Let me go work for a company that's working. So remind them, hey guys, we sent out this many mailers for you to get those tune-ups. And by the way, this is a big one. And it is about motivating them too. It's like you said, you took them out. Whether it's on the tech side, whether it's on the sales side, go back and reinforce the training. Hey guys, we're sending out this marketing piece. Let's make sure that before it hits the streets, we sit down and we talk about it, we train on it. We get real specific. We're going to train on this all week so that when they hit that new marketing piece, these guys are like jacked up and ready. They have a week or two, and it's going to be a different sale when it's perfectly conditioned. So keeping them motivated oftentimes is about going, okay, let's give you what you need. Let's train you up there. Make sure that you've got the proper training. By the way, guys, if you're digging this, make sure you check out our programs. Our programs go deep, 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 multiple days, Austin, Texas. We've got programs coming up in 2 weeks. We got the Tech Series, the Sales Series, the CSR Series, the Manager Series, and the Owner Series. So if you're an owner, come bring your manager. If you're a manager, come bring your owner. Make him go there, right? Make it all work out. Stacy and says, "You're awesome, Joe. Joe is an awesome personal assistant, LOL." I think that was probably Terry.
Yeah, I like it.
What's the joke behind that, man?
I'll let you in on the inside joke. There was just a little conversation over lunch today. I told you we went out to lunch with our comfort advisor. Just a little conversation over lunch. Somebody said that I was a glorified assistant to Terry.
Hey, man, hey, I'll tell you what, you're a huge help to me. So, man, I appreciate you, brother, and I'm sure you're a huge help to Terry. So, amen. Hey,
Terry
just
and I
think
laughed
about it.
Terry was literally like almost spitting his drink out. He was laughing so hard.
If you could be a glorified assistant, that sounds like aren't we all just glorified assistants if we do it well?
Right. Just like when somebody compares you to something in sales, it's like, hold on, wait a minute. Isn't everything in life about sales?
Yeah, it's like, oh, no, I don't get that. All right, so let's see here. We've answered several of your questions. We just talked about keeping your guys motivated. If there's anything that we're forgetting on the motivation front, maybe something that works for you, let us know. By the way, easy hits. Easy little hits. We would train our techs on some basic things that maybe they should have always been looking for, but they don't necessarily pay attention to until things get slower. So looking for things like properly piping air conditioning, they should always be checking that out, but you guys know as well as I do, they don't often go up and look at the hard pipe like they should when it's 100 degrees. Now's the time to do that. Sealing, plenums. Now this may seem like, oh my gosh, are you serious? But in our first year of business, when things slowed way down, every truck got IQ lights, IQ filters, they got duct sealant, and they got material to properly hard pipe furnaces. And we trained our face off. And on those 4 things, guys were able to have a decent average ticket, make money, put money in their pocket, serve the client well, and add a lot of value-added items. So these are just some things to think about. Yes, indeed, servants. I'll see you in 2 weeks, Todd. I'll see you in 2 weeks, Todd. So look forward to that. That was a comment that was on there. Okay, so now let's cover another one. Let's do one last objection, and if there's nothing else that comes from you guys, we'll say thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Let's do the Christmas objection. The Christmas objection. There's a couple ways to handle this, as there are always ways to handle it. But Joe, let's hear you, man. What's some ways to handle the Christmas objections?
Man, ain't nobody got time for that. That's what I say to the Christmas objection. No, but really, the first thing you really want to do when you're getting that Christmas objection, I got to wait for, we got the holidays coming, or I can't do it because I got this or that. Don't really listen to it. You want to listen to it because you need to hear what they're saying, but you don't really want to believe it. There's a lot of things you need to do when you start hearing this objection. One of the first one is build value. You need to build value and uncover the true needs and the true wants of the client. And again, don't let them develop that no excuse mentality in you. Because listen, if it's not going to be this excuse, it's going to be another one. If it's not going to be the Christmas excuse, it's going to be the tax return excuse, or it's going to be the back to school excuse, or it's going to be, whatever, the summer vacation excuse. It's always going to be something. So what I like to remind people sometimes, and I like to be intentional about this, is people in general like to make decisions that make them feel comfortable. People don't like to make decisions that make them feel uncomfortable. It's the whole pleasure and pain perspective. People like to make decisions that move towards comfort or move away from pain. So sometimes you have to verbalize that intention. Miss Jones, I'm going to ask you to make a decision today that I know you're not comfortable doing, but I'm going to verbalize it. You don't have to say that part, but because you were and you did verbalize the intention, you can kind of stay a little bit ahead of the curve on the objection.
Yeah, so what you said, I just want to reinforce because I know people are going to be sometimes jumping in, and I also want you to, I just want this concept to kind of sink in. If it comes up to where they're like, golly, man, Christmas is coming up soon. Of course it is. Is that a tree? It's a really bad tree, Todd. But there's a star on top, so you know it's a Christmas tree.
Just star, David.
It's a star. I'm not a very good drawer. You can be a star, David. I'm cool with that. What you want to do is when he says you want to hear it, but you don't really want to hear it, if you get involved in the conversation and you get down in the mud with him, you're going to get stuck. Oh, golly, I know. Man, I've spent so much money on the kids' Christmas presents this year. And then before long, you might even like literally start to feel that way. You know, it's a wicked mind trick to do to people. And it works on the young and the gullible more than it does people that have been through it, but it still works on everyone. And if you don't believe this, you can put this to the test, although it's very effective. It's also kind of mean, where you could just be at the coffee shop, right? And you could just go, excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but do you feel okay? And that one question they'll go, what? Well, I mean, they might have been feeling great. And that one question will start messing with their brain. And you're like, why did he ask that? And why did you ask that? Oh, I'm sorry, never mind. You know what? I can't leave it alone. You don't look like you feel good. And that's mean, but I'm going to tell you something. You can psychologically make people go from being in a great mood, feeling great, to I don't feel good. And if you go in and someone's got a Christmas objection and you get in the mud with them, you're going to reinforce that, and you will actually give the objection strength.
Yeah, you'll actually give it for them. You can almost make it your idea. You can almost start talking about the Christmas objection and remind them that there is an objection.
Yeah. So first thing is don't bring it up. Is the very, very first rule of holiday, Halloween. Man, my makeup's expensive, Joe. All that fake blood.
Too much candy.
Yeah, if you know that there is a potential money sucker school starting up, you just don't even bring it up. I mean, you may love Christmas like it's your favorite thing on the planet. Okay, fantastic. Don't you dare bring it up. You're going to be so tempted to. You're going to walk in, the most obvious thing is going to be to talk about Christmas. Don't. Stick to the old tried and true form factors, family, occupation, recreation, material possessions. Talk about how lovely their home is, but you better not talk too much about those holidays that are connected closely to I got to spend money, so I ain't got that money to spend on you. Keep it in mind.
Something else that can help, can I add?
Mm-hmm.
Something else we do is you try to plant that financial seed at that time. So you have a customer that prepares for this type of expense, and you have that conversation. Ms. Jones, sometimes we have customers that prepare, or clients that prepare for this type of expense. Sometimes we don't. We have customers that need to utilize our financing and go forward with our financing. Where do you categorize yourself in this demeanor? Where are you coming from? Do you have the money set aside, or is this something you're going to need to set, some financing in place for? That's another thing that can help stimulate that.
Yeah, making it about the money's fine. Randy says, I think this would make an awesome Christmas present for you and your family. Show you really care about them. You nerd. Me too, Randy. I'm a nerd. Man, I'll tell you what, this dual fuel heat pump, what a present. I think Terry's probably got something here. But I get what you're saying, man. I'm just having some fun with you. Terry, I don't want your heat not to work at your house while you have company over for Christmas. Man, I can only imagine a morning without hot water, Christmas morning without hot water. That's the way to handle it. Christmas is coming up. I know, Mrs. Smith. And if your luck is anything like mine, by the way, I call this the Uncle Eddie close. You can find this written out word for word if you want on our website. I'm going to do it roughly from memory. Mrs. Smith, National Lampoon is my favorite holiday movie ever, the Christmas one. And you know what? I'm here, and I'm like the warning. So in case you're curious, I essentially am like the postman today. And on my postcard, it says, "Hi, Clark. I'm coming for Christmas, Uncle Eddie." But in this particular case, it's got a certification, like you got to sign it and send it back to him or he's not coming. Now, Mrs. Smith, I'm telling you that the guaranteed way that you sign it and Uncle Eddie is going to show up on your door this year for the holidays is if you don't take care of these issues. Now, if you want Uncle Eddie to stay away, let me make these repairs, let me do these recommendations. He's going to stay away. If not, he's going to most likely pop in at the worst time possible. If people have seen that movie, if they're of that generation, they will laugh. You can make a joke out of it. Do you really want Uncle Eddie parking his RV in front of your home? And I noticed that you don't even have gutters out there. So you got it. All right, man, I had some fun, Joe. I ain't got nothing else because I don't think there's no other questions. So I'm pretty good, man. You got any questions?
No, I just hope that we did what we always do. We turned you know what into you know what.
That's right, man. Learning into earning. All right, well, thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. I'm going to check one last thing here before I say peace out. I think we've got some text messages. Let me see if someone texted a question. That would be interesting. Nope, nobody texted a question. All right, well then, going to use that story, Todd. Do, man. It'll crack some people up. They'll dig it. That's it for today. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Joe, for your time. Thank you, Terry, for letting Joe participate in these things. We will see you soon. Take care.